So they claim to have made a few improvements over there at camp. We'll test that out. We're going to see what we can come up with, especially if there happens to bust out a big old thunderstorm tomorrow, which I think they're calling for, right? Beginning tonight and going into tomorrow. So hopefully after that, the week's going to be great and weather-wise. And so we're really looking forward to a good time over there at church camp. I just got off of another camp at Truth Bible Camp, and I was amazed. I don't know what the girls on their side taught so much because they don't let us, of course, into the ladies' day over there that they have. But on the last day of it, I was amazed at how you can influence young people and unlock their potential to do things that I've never even thought of until many years later. These are all young people about the age that I just mentioned for us going to Big Reading. And I saw personally some of those young men stand up on the last day, on the evening, to give they were going to conduct a worship service. And different ones were taking turns. One of them gets up there, opens up his Bible, I guess, has his lesson there in front of him. He's a teenager. And not another one at that. He's giving an ontological proof for the existence of God. Do y'all know how hard it is to give ontological proofs? They're based upon the contingency of creation versus the necessity of the eternal mind of God and the initiation of time. Yeah, how do you like that? How do you introduce an argument like that? And he did a great job of it. Made it where people could understand it. I can't even make people understand the ontological proof for the existence of God. It's something that, mathematicians struggle to get people to see and understand it. Well, you got to understand these symbols and everything. And he made it clear. What a bright young fellow. Did he know that coming in to Bible camp? No. But that means that there were other people influencing him and exposing him to the evidence that he already believed in for the Lord and His Son, and he was able to give that back to the people because he had gained confidence by seeing the confidence that had been put in him by those other fellas at the camp. This is something that I don't even know his family, but it must start at home, right? You look at Ephesians chapter 6. When mom and dad at home start putting and instilling the nurture and admonition of God, instilling it in them, just put it right in them at home, then that unlocks the potential of any young person. They can do wonders once confidence is expressed in them at home and once they receive at home the structure that they need. Now, this is something I wish that I had done better at. And every father is going to have regrets, for example. Every mother will too. But looking back, you're like, well, I could have done better at this, I could have done better at that, and I could have allowed for my children to be even further ahead of the game in life. Because not every child, has that benefit. They're not all ahead of the game. Some of them struggle a whole lot and have backgrounds where they have all kinds of things they were exposed to. Well, I could have explained this to them, or I could have showed them this, or I could have took them here, or I could have made sure that they were able to be taught about blah, 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 whatever. Listen, you're always going to have regrets from earlier in life because character, that's what I'm preaching about this morning, character is a slope, and you just grow and mature in it as you go through life. So I tell you now that you need to take advantage of every opportunity you have to be that Christian example to the children and to the grandchildren. But what you have to have is an understanding that you can't turn the clock back, and you have to realize character is something that builds. There are very few people in the Bible, very few, that you can say, I can't think of a single bad thing about that person. Now you think about it with me for a minute. Today's two main characters out of the Bible I'm talking about are Joseph and Joshua. Those two guys, I can't think of a single bad thing about their character in the Bible. Can you? I couldn't find any. Not a one. Now, they're not as major of a character as some others. I'm sure God gave the flaws of some others because he didn't want some of the major characters to be worshipped, like Abraham or something. But all of those other guys had problems. And fellas, I'm focusing on you today, not to pick on you, but because, you got Father's Day, so you give a little more attention there. The reason I'm looking at these two is they are the positive example of character passed on and influencing other people. And it's like their maturity level was incredible and it just soared as they went through life. Joshua and Joseph. Other people, they all had problems. I don't care how big they were. Moses had a temper problem, didn't he? Moses didn't want to go on the mission God sent him. Moses had problems. Abraham telling his little white lies, right? Abraham having to learn the hard way that God will fulfill his promise without Abraham trying to finagle with the promise of God. No, Abraham had some issues, even though he's a great man, far beyond me or any of us, I'm sure, that are here today. David? Everybody knows David had some problems. King and prophet, yes, man after God's own heart. David had some moral issues, didn't he? And David was a violent man. David had some problems. All of these major characters had problems, but some of the guys that even, you got a book for one of them, don't you? So even though you got Joshua there, he's not a big character in the Bible, but there is quite a bit said about him, and there's just nothing mentioned bad about him. Must have been a fine fellow. How did he learn how to build his character over time? Well, that's a valuable thing, isn't it? If we could just mature quicker in the Lord, then that is the more quickly we can pass that on to the next generation, to the children. I'll say this is obvious, but I'll say it anyway. That means by the time you have kids, you'd better have gotten some level of maturity to yourself. Otherwise, your children will suffer. You know that already. That's obvious, isn't it? But you had better have gotten some level of maturity. Moms and dads, if you don't, then think of the things that your children will lack if you don't pass on good principles to them right now. If you're too busy out following your own way and your own stuff and just cannot find the time to pass it on, you will have greater regret. Because you've got to have a certain level of maturity to be a parent, especially in this day and age. Like I said, character doesn't start just right at the beginning. You build it over time. I'll give you an example from myself, because if you're going to talk about somebody, you can't really get in too much trouble by talking about yourself. All right, so when I get back from camp, I don't think Connie's exactly looking forward to it, but I'm supposed to drag her to a 40th high school reunion. Upperman High School reunion. Why am I going? There are certain people I respect, like, for example, Connie's cousin Tanda and stuff, and she'd want me to go to it. So, all right, Connie, let's go. I'll go to my 40th high school reunion for Upperman High School. I think Teddy McWilliams is going to be there. All right, Teddy. I never was a big fan of Teddy. Teddy was the Bachelor of Ugliness. Y'all don't even know what that is. Now, I was in high school, remember, not as mature as the man you see in front of you today. Teddy was the Bachelor of Ugliness. You say, Tim, what in the world is a Bachelor of Ugliness? They quit doing Bachelor of Ugliness in a lot of high schools and colleges a long time ago. They might still have them in various items, but they quit it in a lot of them for the same reason, probably, that they quit doing a lot of stuff, because it sets up somebody to be superlative. Trust me, one of these days they'll probably get rid of valedictorian, because that means somebody did real special, and that makes other people feel like dirt and that kind of thing. So they don't like anything that makes anybody seem to have received something above anybody else. But anyway, the Bachelor of Ugliness was supposed to mean that among the bachelors of the class, this man has it together. He's man about town. He has all the potential in the world and so forth. The opposite, it's a misnomer. The opposite of Bachelor of Ugliness, which was usually one of the more, well put together men in the class, was like Miss Upperman. that would have been the opposite to him. So it didn't mean he was an ugly guy. It just simply meant that's the term you gave to the boy that was in the clubs, and had the attention of the other people. Anyway, so it was Teddy. Now, I didn't have any problem. Teddy never did anything wrong to me. And there was no reason for me to have anything against Teddy McWilliams. Put a dead mouse in his locker. I did. And I never felt bad about it. I look back on my life now, it's like, Tim, why did you put a dead mouse in Teddy McWilliams' locker? I don't know, he just got on my nerves. But I can remember there was absolutely no mature thought in my head that led to such a decision. Now, when we meet for the 40th reunion, will I confess to Teddy that I put a dead mouse in his locker? I don't necessarily see a reason why, other than some pretty bad smells. I don't think he really suffered from it. I'll think about it. But anyway, the fact of the matter is this. Tim, would you be so petty just because somebody else is getting an award or whatever that you would do that kind of thing nowadays? Well, of course I wouldn't. You mature, don't you? You build up through the years. You don't do what you did back when you was a teenager. Fathers especially, but both mom and dad, listen to me. You don't want your children to see in you the same mistakes repeated year after year after year. Show progress. They're not expecting you to be perfect. They want you to show progress in life, in success, in having it together. Once again, you're going to have all kinds of regrets. I'm not saying that. Fathers, bring up your children in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, Ephesians 6. But if they didn't see it all the time with you when they're younger, they should see the love and concern grow over time so that your character builds with your opportunity to do good and to follow right. Let me give you some Bible examples. So you've got in the book of Genesis, of all the different sons that are going to end up big in producing the tribes of Israel. So you've got Joseph that is going to end up being bigger than all of them, right? He's going to get 2 tribes, not just one, because he's such a great man. What made Joseph such a great man? If you think about his family and you think about what he went through, he possessed a childlike faith from childhood. It was no doubt passed on to him by his father, passed down all the way from Abraham, of course. And he possessed this to his dying day. It does not say in the Bible he was perfect, even though it doesn't give any bad examples of him. But it does say in the Bible that he did have to mature his way through the experiences that he had, the ups and downs of life. It says in Genesis 37 and verse 13, Israel said to Joseph, he said, "Are not your brethren feeding the flock in Shechem? Come, I'll send you to them." And Joseph said, "Here I am." Boy, that's the attitude, isn't it? Even when he was young, the reason he turns out to be such a great example of character is that this man, this father, this originator of whole tribes of the earth, this man had a way about him that said, if I'm needed, I'm there. If I can do it, I'll at least try. Joseph, I need you to go out and say, "Here I am. Let's go." The attitude served him well later on in life. He was given responsibility, and he was faithful in everything that he was appointed to do. Even when he was given a job in prison, he did it so well that he was set over the other prisoners. That's how good of a job he did. So all the times that he was introduced to things and he was given an opportunity to serve, he thought of his service as service to God. It says in Genesis 39, as you go down to verse 9 there, "How can I do this wickedness and sin against God?" he told this woman. Why would he say that? Because he looked at his life as a service unto God. Here I am. If I serve my Father well, I'm serving my God well. Here I am. In a foreign land, he was sent down into Egypt by his brethren. They were jealous of him. And he finds himself in a bad situation. And then here this woman's trying to get him into trouble. And what is his attitude? No, I can't. I'm not going to get in any trouble with you. How can I do this wickedness and sin against God? He didn't say, how in the world can I do something and be bad for my business? He didn't say, how in the world can I do this and besmirch my reputation? He knew there's a reason I am the kind of man I am. And that's because I know somebody's looking at me and he's going to hold that against me. And there's no way that I'm going to do that. I will not violate the conscience he gave me. I will not violate the trust that God has put in me and that I've put in him. How can I do this, he said. Not going to. It didn't matter what kind of punishment that he was involved in. It doesn't matter what kind of ups and downs he had in life and the heartbreak that he suffered. He would serve the Lord because he looked just like his father Abraham for the city of God. Joseph was a gentleman. What makes a gentleman a gentleman? A lady, a lady. Think of what we associate with good character for both genders. Joseph had all of these characteristics, plus gratitude, respect for others and for their possessions, and recognition of God. Joseph, if you ever study on him in the Bible, is surely a great example of what it takes to have the character you need in order to be successful before both God and men. Joshua is a great example of character. Fathers, I'm going to conclude this morning with a statement that everybody knows made by Joshua. You know it, I know it. It's a great statement. Everybody that looks into this man's life can remember him for this final statement I'm going to make. But before we get to that one, I want to show you a little about his character before we get to it, and then the lesson is yours, all right? You want to mature, you want to grow up and see and do great things? Joshua is an old man before he comes into his own. Moses was already getting up there around 80 years old, wasn't he, before he actually started doing his greatest work. Joshua was an old man too before he leads the children of Israel to great victory in the land of promise, the land of Canaan. He is the successor to Moses. And Joshua, his character has been building through the early years. He was sent as one of the spies to go on into the land of Canaan. Look and see what's going on over there in that place. We got to invade that land. We got to take it. What kind of people are over there? Joshua, the son of Nun, and Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, were among those who had spied out the land. And when everybody else came back all scaredy cat and said, oh, they're more powerful than us. We can't whoop them. We can't, no, there's no way we can enter the promised land. This is awful. This is awful. They tore their clothes. That means they're in mourning. They can't believe what they saw the same thing those other guys did. And they spoke to the congregation and they said, the land we passed through to spy it out is a good land. If the Lord delights in us, he will bring us into this land and give it to us. They had confidence in God. There are certain things, fathers, that your children are looking for in your character. What is a child going to get from mama? They're generally going to receive understanding, compassion, and they're going to learn love. Without these, you will not be successful in life. It is necessary. But this sermon is not about Mary and other good character examples of women. This is supposedly Father's Day, and I can preach this lesson any time, but I'd like to think about Joshua for a minute here. What do you expect to receive from men, from fathers? Determination. Plans. In other words, a man says, I made a plan, and this is how we're going to accomplish it. You expect to receive reason from a father. I have a goal in mind, and here's why this is going to make you successful, and here's why it's not. This is what you need to do. Decision. You expect to see leadership. This is why it encouraged fathers to bring their children up in the nurture and admonition of God in Ephesians 6. Why didn't he mention mothers there? Because it's the dads that need to take that initiative. It's the dads that need to show that leadership. That's what they're looking for from you. It's what must be provided. And inasmuch as there are times in life where we don't do that, then that makes us feel rough on a Father's Day. But if we do show it, then you're just like Joshua, because Joshua demonstrated that kind of leadership from early on in life. I don't even know if he had a family yet. He probably didn't by Numbers 14 when he said this. But when he said this, he showed his character early on. If God is for us, they can't be against us. Let's go. We can whoop up on them. We can do this. Do not fear them, he said in verse 18. Verse 9. Well, anyway, he developed that character through faith and commitment to do great things for the Lord. And your children are looking for you, fathers, to show that same character in your life. That determination, that decision, that leadership. This is what needs to be done. I am the voice of reason, and this is the way it's going to be accomplished. And it's for your good, for your own nurture and admonition. It says in Joshua chapter 6 and verse 16, when they were surrounding the city of Jericho and they're about to make the walls fall down, who is it that was commanding them? Who is it that was telling them this is how we're going to get it done? And what did he tell them on that occasion? The seventh time that they go around, then the priests blew the trumpets. Joshua said to the people, shout, for the Lord has given you the city. He didn't say, I gave you the city. He didn't say, oh, well, everybody check this out. Look at my brilliance, or see what kind of armor I've got on or something. No. He knew God was the benefactor, and God would bless the one that he wants to. And therefore, putting the Lord in charge, he accomplished great things. How does a tribe of shepherds that look after flocks of sheep and cattle, how do they go and attack fenced cities against warlike tribes that have been fighting for thousands of years, and the Israelites marched right up in through there and overtook that land and have dwelt in it ever since? How did they do that? They did it, my friends, because those men among them that trusted in the power of God knew. I've got a garden hoe. I've got a pruning hook. How am I supposed to fight these people? They got their fenced-in cities. They got their swords. They got their catapults, whatever. How are we supposed to fight them? And Joshua, fellows like him, they came along and they said, the Lord has given you the city. He's done it. He's already given it to you. The walls aren't down. God will bring them down. The fighting's not done. God will help you in the fight. Only be brave. Be strong. Do it. This is the kind of character that every father needs. It is the kind of leadership that must be demonstrated among any successful person. You can get it done is the message that a father should bring to a child, but regardless of the ups and downs that life may bring you, you will be great in the eyes of the Lord, and he will always love you and be there for you. Therefore, be brave, be strong. Do it. We could mention other people on this list besides Joseph and Joshua, but you know why I put Joshua there. It's because of this statement that's coming now. This last statement of Joshua chapter 24 and verse 15. Joshua is addressing the people, and before he dies, he wants them to know, this is where me and my family stand. You make up your mind. But he says, when it comes to us, this is the way it is. He said, if it seems evil to you to serve the Lord, choose yourselves this day who you will serve. Whether the gods that your fathers served that were on the other side of the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But as for me and for my house, we will serve the Lord. It's that determination. It's that kind of character that made him go down in history as blessed by God and a man that God did not even bother to list any flaws. He just said, here he is. Here's his book and here's his story. Not just dads, but all of you. Don't you want to have that same character? Don't you want to be looked up to by people that want good and right? And at the same time, most of all, be appreciated by God for things that others never even see. Don't you want to have a clear conscience that you have matured in life and done the best you can to demonstrate a good Christian example before both God and men? If there's any way that you need to serve the Lord better, then you don't need to tarry any longer. Your path to good character begins now. And if you wait, my friend, until toward the end of your life, then you can't go so far up that slope. But the earlier in life, in other words, today, because today is the day of salvation, that you make that decision, I'm going to be like Joseph. I'm going to be like Joshua. And most of all, I'm going to be like Jesus. When you decide to be that way today, then the rest of your life, you have opportunity to build and build and build that reputation before God and that example before your children and before your fellow man. And let it come back to you on the day of judgment. If there's someone here that's not prepared to live that kind of a life, then the Lord can help you today. He can introduce you to salvation through Jesus Christ our Lord. He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved. If there's someone that needs to come back to the right way, the Lord gives another law of pardon for His children. That is, if we confess our sins, He is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Can we pray with you in some way? We need to come to Jesus as we stand and sing.